Hi, welcome back to this week's video. Welcome if you're new. This is my everyday makeup look and I wanted to show you guys all the products I use, link them below, and show you guys how I do my everyday makeup routine. The first thing I like to use are these Peter Thomas Roth eye patches, and I don't use them every day. One is water drench and this one's cucumber detox, and I just kind of switch them off depending on the day, and that's usually what I start with, which I already used. When I do my base makeup, I usually start with some hair clips, and these ones I just got at TJ Maxx around Christmas time, of course, because I had to use Christmas ones. The first product I use for foundation is the Clinique Even Better SPF 15 foundation. I've been using this foundation ever since I started wearing makeup, so it's kind of just what I've stuck with. Kind of just disperse it all over my face a little bit, and it's definitely buildable, so if I need more, I can always go back in. I also just take a fluffy brush. This is the It Cosmetics, and just blend it all over my face. For concealer, I use Tarte Shape Tape, and I've kind of just been using this one again for a really long time. I'm sure any concealer works, and I just apply a little bit to the inner corner and to the outer corner, and then a little bit in the middle, nose, and anywhere where I feel like I need to brighten. I just take this Tarte dual-ended brush and blend out the concealer. When I'm done with my concealer, I go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Pressed Powder Compact. And I also have these little sponges that I got at Target that are made for like smaller areas. And I kind of just go in underneath my eye and where I applied the concealer. I use a few different blushes depending on the day, and I usually do a cream one and a powder. And this is my go-to everyday foundation, which is the Charlotte Tilbury Blush Wand. But recently I got this Rare Beauty one, also loving, in the shade Happy. And then usually I pick a cream blush and then I go on top of it with the Dior shade One Pink powder. Yeah, that's usually my blush combo. But before I do blush, I'm going to do my bronzer, which is the Chanel Cream Bronzer. I also have always been a fan of the Hoola bronzer, but I just switched over to a cream one. I go in with this dual-ended Makeup by Mario brush and just kind of dab it all over where I want to feel bronzed. Since it's an everyday look, I always use this bronzer, but sometimes when I want a little bit more, I use the Charlotte Tilbury bronzing wand, but that's for certain occasions that I use that. Whenever I'm applying blush and bronzer, I always just swipe it over my eyelids too. I don't really do a lot of eyeshadow. And then since this is a dual-ended brush, I usually just apply a little bit to the smaller side and go along my nose. For blush, I'm going to go with the Charlotte Tilbury one because that's usually what I wear most days. And I just apply like one or two dots on each side. I go in with the same Makeup by Mario brush and just kind of swipe it along my cheekbone and a little bit on my eyelid as well. This blush is really pretty because it has a little bit of shimmer to it, so it definitely adds like a dewiness glow, which I really like. And then after I've applied it, I go in with the Dior blush and just go along where I applied the Charlotte Tilbury and swipe a little bit on my eyelids as well. Now that I've applied my base makeup, I'm going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury face spray. It's the Beauty Elixir. This has been one of my favorite parts of my makeup routine for so many years now, so I always love using this like in between the stages of my makeup. And I always use a fan. The next step in my makeup routine is this eyebrow pencil by Chanel, and I have the shade 10, which is the blonde one, and my brows are pretty filled in already, so I kind of just go in with the end and fill that in a little bit and then brush it. But I kind of just do this until it looks like each brow matches a little bit and I've filled in the ends. After I fill in my brows, I go in with a Benefit brow gel. It honestly just depends. I've used a lot of brow gels and they've all been pretty good. This is just the one I'm using at the moment. And I just go through my brows a few times to try and get them to stay in place. After my brows, I go in with this L'Oreal La Shadow Stick in the shade 100 Ice Sparkle. And I usually put this in the corner of my eye to just brighten it up a little bit. And depending on the day, that's just like my normal everyday routine, but sometimes I'll go in with this Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow palette and add this shimmer sparkle shade. Since I do this a lot, I'll go ahead and apply it on the inner part of my eyelid and just kind of sweep it across. And it just adds a very like natural little sparkle. It's not like super crazy. And this palette is in the shade Pillow Talk. Usually before I do my eyeliner or after, I'll apply the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray, just depending on when I remember to do it. And then for eyeliner, I use the CoverGirl Perfect Blend in the shade Black Brown. It's 110. And it also has a little sponge on the opposite end to blend. And I think you can get this at like Target, Walmart, anywhere that like CoverGirl is sold. And I just start making a wing. I usually apply the eyeliner about halfway on my eyelid and just kind of connect it and go all the way to the outer part where I've made a wing. Okay, I finished the liner. I just kind of did the upper eyelid and then connected it outwards. And now I'm going to do the Maybelline Sky High Lash Sensational Mascara. And I don't even use a mascara wand. I have pretty good eyelashes and sometimes I feel like that messes with them. If I get any mascara on my eyelid, I always go with a Q-tip and just wipe it off like that. For lip, I use this Makeup Forever in Wherever Walnut, and which I definitely need to sharpen. And then I also have this Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk lip liner. And again, just depending on the day is usually what I use. One of my favorite lipsticks is this Gwen Stefani in the shade Stomp Box. It's such a pretty pink nude color. I love wearing that as my lipstick. And then I also have these two YSL lip glaze that are really pretty. This is in shade 44. I love that as well. And then this one is in shade 16. It's just like a little bit darker nude color. And then recently I just got this Merit lip oil, which I didn't have any lip oils, and this one's super pretty. I love this shade. I will say most of the time I'm wearing the Makeup Forever lip liner because it's just a newer one that I got that I really like. But I think today I'm going to stick with a pink Charlotte Tilbury one. Keep it a little bit more natural because I'm not doing anything crazy. I love this shade. It's like my lip color, but just a little bit more pink and nude. And for an everyday look, this is just such a good lipstick. I love that. It just like makes the whole makeup look. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of shine with this lip gloss. It's called lip glaze, but it's a lip gloss kind of. It's a little bit more comfortable than a lip gloss. And it just adds a little bit of shine to the lip, which I really like. I think that's such a pretty color. I think that's pretty much it. Usually I add highlighter just depending on the day and what I'm doing. Yeah, this is the finished look. This is just like my everyday look, and then depending if I'm doing like a concert or going to dinner, I'll like do a few extra little steps, but this is pretty much just my go-to makeup look that I do all the time.